Hey guys, Al here. Happy Friday. Hope everybody's doing well. Wanted to talk a little bit about diversity in food plots or gardens and why that's beneficial. And I want to show you a picture that I found way back in my photos as to some things that I had done in the past that were mistakes from a soil health perspective, but also I think from a wildlife nutrient availability perspective. So obviously this is a picture from yesterday. I'll show you another. Here's another one. And here's even another one. So obviously the deer were in there all evening yesterday, and this is pretty much par for the course. We see quite a few deer, as I've talked about. Our deer density is very healthy, if not in abundance. But one of the things that I want to highlight is that the deer are still able to feed on this highly diverse mix. So in our carbon load, we got 16 species. We have a whole bunch of different clovers. We have several different types of brassicas, not only tuber production brassicas, but also forage type brassicas so that they can withstand browse. That's very important. It's more expensive to do, but it's very important from a browsability perspective, and also having just more diversity within that family of brassicas. And then of course we have our grains, and we don't just do rye grain, but we also do the rye grain. We do oats, we do triticale, etc. So I highlight this because it's very important, not only from a diversity and root structure perspective and diversity and root exudation perspective for soil health and microbial health, but also from a wildlife perspective. When you compare this to, I'll show you an old picture of some mistakes I made when I was just planting monoculture brassicas. Now this was many years ago, and I'm still learning more every day, and knew way less back then. But what the fields look like after a monoculture of brassicas versus this. So here's the old picture I found that was on the farm there where I had planted. I don't remember what exactly it was, but obviously it was a tuber production brassica, probably purple top turnips and some radish and things of that nature. And obviously the deer liked it. I mean, the deer were attracted to it. But as you can see, I'm sure that this was done with a tiller and seeded. I don't recall exactly, but I'm guessing that was the case. As you can see here, yes, the deer consumed quite a bit. And yes, there's some organic matter that's decaying. Brassicas are relatively low carbon to nitrogen ratio, so those leaves are going to decompose pretty quickly. But more importantly, from a soil health perspective, I have a lot of bare soil, and I don't have a lot of food for the deer to come in and eat any further. There's a few bulbs left. And also a big mistake here is because it was a monoculture of brassicas, I don't have anything that's going to green up in the spring and provide weed suppression. Now in this picture, this was again last night. This is of our carbon load. There were several deer out feeding, but also what you'll notice is you even have some remnants you see on the ground behind me of our spring nitro boost. So why? Well, those are some of the higher carbon to nitrogen ratio plants. That's why we have that mix balanced, so that those are slow release fertilizer over the whole length of the fall carbon load planting and into the winter of releasing. Now, by time we plant our nitro boost in the spring into this, much of that sorghum is going to start already be broken down beyond recognition or very close to. But that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to build on top of each other one after another. But as you can see, this is a green carpet of clovers and grains and brassicas that are left, etc., that's going to help suppress weeds going into the nitro boost planting in the spring, but it's also going to feed wildlife. And here's an example of what it looks like in the spring. So here's what it'll look like in the spring. So it's one of the first things to green up because that seed's there. The roots are established. They're ready to go. They've grown all winter long. I mean, obviously with some of going into dormancy, but they've been there established all fall and into the winter. As soon as that springtime warm-up happens, these are the first things to pop out of the ground. So not only are you having food for wildlife, deer and turkey. The turkeys absolutely love it because of the bugging habitat and seed production of the hairy vetch and your clovers. But you also are doing a really great job of feeding your underground army, which is your soil microbes. I just have to highlight this quick because I absolutely love the biomass that crimson clover can put on, not only from a nitrogen fixation underground, but obviously in the above ground biomass that it creates. That's as long as my form plus the roots. So just an incredible amount of biomass that we're going to then terminate either through mowing, spraying, or roller crimping, and putting in our nitro boost. You can see in this picture, this is about the same angle that camera was that I started on. This is our spring nitro boost. There's actually a deer in that picture, and this is what it looks like. I forget exactly the date here, but this was I don't know, midsummer or so. Obviously, there's sorghum in there, there's beans, there's peas, there's spring barley, there's sunflowers, etc. The list goes on. There's lab, there's joint vetch, there's sun hemp, there's buckwheat. And we put all of those in there so you have stages of growth, different growth both vertically, but then also we use vining species so that you get horizontal growth throughout that field. Again, trying to act as a solar panel for our microbes underground, but also I want to make sure that we're feeding a lot of wildlife as well. So that's kind of what it looks like. And then here's the last picture I'll show on this video just for sake of time, but this is actually right after the tractor ran through there with the drill. We did not crimp this actually. This was just through from the weight of the tractor and the drill, and it lays it right down. Actually, I'll show one more quick picture to give you an example of what that looks like. So as you can see in this picture, the tractor's going through. It's just absolutely laying it down. You can see the strip that we have not drilled through yet, and everything else has been drilled, so it just lays it down. Now, some of that will pop back up. That's where you can either use an herbicide, you can come back in and mow, or if you have a crimper, or even we played around a little bit with a heavy harrow dragging just to have that extra weight, just to kind of smash that down a little bit. But as you can see from those other pictures, now we have this green mat. We had been planting carbon load into this. So then that carbon load grew all up right through that mat, planting green as it's called. And there was not that much sorghum and stuff left. Well, where did that go? Well, it was consumed by microbes and taken up by the carbon load. So that's the whole idea with the 1-2 system is going one after another. Versus that picture I showed you from a few years ago where I just simply had basically a barren field with a couple turnip bulbs left over. This is a lot better, not only for soil health, but also for wildlife. So whether you use us or not, guys, we know you have a lot of choices out there. We sure do appreciate you listening and following along and sending us the emails and texts. It sure means a lot. And if I can help you at all, please reach out. And if you like this stuff, please share, subscribe, and follow along. Most importantly, have a safe, enjoyable weekend. And check us out at vitalizeseed.com.